Admiral Reyna Blackwood stood at the observation deck of the Terran diplomatic vessel Concordia watching the swirling nebula clouds of the neutral zone paint purple and blue streaks across the void. Her reflection in the reinforced glass showed a woman in her mid-30s, dark hair pulled back in a regulation braid, the silver and blue uniform of the Terran Alliance adorned with hard-earned medals that she usually preferred to keep hidden. "Admiral, the Celestial Delegation's ship has entered the system," Lieutenant Hassan reported from behind her. "Their signal patterns match the diplomatic codes." Reyna nodded, her fingers unconsciously adjusting the collar of her dress uniform. This meeting could change everything or end in disaster. The Celestial Dominion had been humanity's greatest rival for centuries, their bio-enhanced civilization viewing standard humans as primitive creatures barely worth acknowledging. But recent threats from the void sectors had forced both sides to consider the unthinkable: alliance. "Prepare the reception hall," she ordered, turning away from the view. "And make sure our security protocols are running at maximum efficiency. Just because they agreed to talk doesn't mean they've changed their minds about us." The reception hall of the Concordia had been specifically designed for diplomatic encounters, its architecture a careful blend of Terran efficiency and attempts at intergalactic elegance. Reyna took her position at the head of the Terran delegation, flanked by her most trusted advisors and security team. The celestial delegation materialized through the quantum transport pad in a shower of crystalline light. Their bioluminescent skin gave off a subtle glow, their movements fluid and precise in a way that spoke of centuries of genetic refinement. But it was their leader who caught and held Reyna's attention. Prince Lysander of the Celestial Dominion stood easily 2 meters tall, his silver-white hair flowing freely in a way that would never be permitted in Terran military circles. His eyes, all 4 of them, were the color of distant stars, and when they focused on Reyna, she felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. "Admiral Blackwood," he spoke, his voice carrying harmonic undertones that seemed to resonate with the very air. "The Dominion extends its greetings." "Prince Lysander," Reyna replied with a formal bow. "The Alliance welcomes you aboard the Concordia Asterisk." What followed was hours of careful negotiation, discussion of territorial boundaries, shared defense protocols, and technology exchange agreements. But throughout it all, Reyna couldn't shake the feeling that the prince was watching her with more than diplomatic interest. During a brief recess, she found herself alone with him in the observation lounge. The same nebula that had captured her attention earlier now casting its colors across his luminescent features. "Your species continues to surprise us," Lysander said softly, breaking protocol by speaking without formal address. "We had thought you would take generations more to achieve what you have." "Perhaps that's the problem," Reyna responded, allowing herself to relax slightly. "Your people have always underestimated ours." His laugh was unexpected, a melodic sound that seemed to dance in the air. "Indeed, though I find myself personally guilty of a different kind of underestimation today." "Oh?" Reyna raised an eyebrow, her diplomatic training warring with her curiosity. "I had not expected the admiral of the Terran fleet to be quite so." He paused, searching for the word compelling. The comment caught her off guard and she felt heat rise to her cheeks. This wasn't in any of the diplomatic protocols she'd studied. "Prince Lysander, I." A sudden explosion rocked the ship, throwing them both against the observation window. Alarms blared as red emergency lights flooded the chamber. "Admiral," Lieutenant Hassan's voice crackled through her comm, "we've detected void ships emerging from quantum space. They're on an attack vector." Reyna steadied herself, years of combat training taking over. But before she could respond, Lysander's hand caught her arm, his touch sending an unexpected electrical tingle through her uniform. "Your ship's defenses cannot withstand a void assault," he said urgently. "But together, my ship's biotech combined with your quantum arrays, we might have a chance." She met his gaze, seeing in those stellar eyes the same recognition she felt. This attack was no coincidence. Someone wanted this diplomatic mission to fail, wanted their peoples to remain divided. "Lieutenant," she commanded into her comm, "begin emergency protocols for linking systems with the celestial vessel. Authorization code Blackwood 7 Alpha." "This is highly irregular," Lysander noted, though his lips curved in what might have been appreciation. "Welcome to how humans do things, Your Highness," Reyna replied, allowing herself a small smile despite the crisis. "We improvise." As they rushed to the bridge together, Reyna couldn't help but think that this was definitely not how she'd expected first contact with the Celestial Dominion to go. But looking at Lysander's determined expression, she had a feeling it might work out better than anyone had planned. The real question was, who had sent the void ships and why were they so determined to keep their civilizations apart? The aftermath of the void ship attack left the Concordia buzzing with tension. Engineering crews from both species worked side by side, merging technologies that had never been meant to interface. The successful defense had saved both ships, but it had also changed everything. Admiral Reyna Blackwood stood in her private quarters, examining the strange patterns that now decorated her skin where Prince Lysander had touched her during the battle. Faint luminescent swirls, almost like his own bio-enhanced markings, traced delicate patterns up her arm. A chime at her door interrupted her examination. "Enter," she called, quickly pulling down her sleeve. Lieutenant Hassan stepped in, his usually composed features tight with concern. "Admiral, we've decoded some of the quantum signatures from the attack. They originated from within the Celestial Dominion." Reyna's jaw tightened. "Have you informed the prince's delegation?" "No, ma'am, I thought you should know first, given the complicated nature of the situation." She nodded, running a hand over her braided hair. "Good call, keep this between us for now. And Hassan, double the security on our quantum core. If someone's trying to sabotage this alliance, they might try again." After Hassan left, Reyna made her way to the ship's garden chamber, a space designed to help long-term space travelers maintain their connection to nature. She found Prince Lysander there, as she'd expected, studying a Terran rose with fascination. "Your botanical specimens are remarkably resilient," he said without turning, "much like your people." "Is that a compliment or an observation?" Reyna asked, moving to stand beside him. "Perhaps both." He turned those starlit eyes toward her and she noticed new patterns swimming in their depths. "The linking of our ship's systems was unprecedented. My advisors are disturbed by the implications." "As are mine," she admitted, "but it worked, and right now that's what matters." Lysander's expression shifted, showing an emotion she couldn't quite read. "There are whispers in my court, Admiral, ancient prophecies speaking of a time when the barriers between our peoples would dissolve. Not everyone welcomes such change." "Are you telling me this attack was about a prophecy?" Reyna's skepticism showed in her voice. "I'm telling you that there are forces at work here beyond political maneuvering." He reached out, his fingers hovering near her concealed arm. "You bear the marks, don't you? The resonance patterns from our contact during the battle." Reyna hesitated, then slowly pulled up her sleeve, revealing the luminescent swirls. Lysander's breath caught audibly. "The marks of convergence," he whispered. "They were said to appear only on those destined to bridge our worlds, but they were considered mere legend, stories told to children." A sudden movement in the shadows caught Reyna's attention. Her combat training kicked in as she spotted the shimmer of a stealth field. "Down!" she shouted, tackling Lysander just as an energy beam cut through the space where he'd been standing. They rolled behind a planter as more shots filled the air. Reyna slapped her comm unit. "Security breach in the garden chamber, multiple hostiles." Lysander's body pressed against hers was distractingly warm, his bioluminescence pulsing with what she assumed was adrenaline. "Those are celestial weapons," he growled. "My own people." "Well, my people are about to show yours how we handle assassins," Reyna replied, drawing her quantum pistol. The weapon hummed to life, but something was different. Where the energy field usually glowed blue, it now shimmered with the same patterns as her arm. The assassins emerged from their stealth fields, their enhanced bodies twisted into combat forms. But before they could attack again, Reyna's modified weapon fired. The quantum blast carried traces of celestial bioenergy, cutting through their advanced shields like they weren't even there. Security teams burst in from both sides, Terran and Celestial, efficiently containing the situation. But Reyna's focus was on Lysander, who was staring at her weapon with undisguised amazement. "Impossible," he breathed. "Your technology, it's adapting to our bioenergy patterns. This goes beyond prophecy. Admiral Reyna, do you understand what this means?" She did. Their touching had done more than leave marks on her skin. Somehow, it had begun breaking down the fundamental barriers between their civilization's technologies. And if that was possible. "We need to talk," she said firmly. "Somewhere secure. Because I have information about the void ship attack that you need to hear, and I have a feeling it connects to all of this." Lysander nodded gravely. My quarters on the celestial vessel, they're protected by biolocks keyed to my genetic signature. No one can spy on us there. As they made their way to the quantum transport pad, Reyna couldn't help but notice how the patterns on her arm pulsed in sync with Lysander's natural luminescence. Something profound was happening between their peoples, something that transcended diplomatic agreements and ancient prophecies. And someone was willing to kill to stop it. Lieutenant Hassan caught her eye as they prepared for transport. She gave him a subtle nod, their prearranged signal to enact emergency protocols if she didn't return on schedule. His return nod was barely perceptible, but she saw the concern in his eyes. As the quantum transport began to energize, Reyna felt Lysander's hand slip into hers. The contact sent sparks of bioluminescence dancing across both their skins. Whatever we discover, he said softly, we face it together. The transport beam engulfed them in crystalline light, carrying them toward answers that would either unite their peoples or tear both their worlds apart. The warning came at 300 station time. Marcus burst into the medical bay, his normally composed demeanor fractured by urgency. Admiral Blackwood is coming, full inspection of the station. Naira was already on her feet, her warrior's instincts cutting through the haze of sleep. The past week of relative peace had almost made her forget she was still a fugitive, almost. When? 6 hours, he's bringing a full security detail and, Marcus hesitated. Director Jensen from Intelligence Division. The name sent a chill through Naira's crystalline form. Jensen was notorious among the Stellar Dominion for his ruthless interrogation methods, if he found her here. You need to turn me in, Naira said quietly. It's the only way to protect yourself. Marcus's dark eyes flashed with something between anger and determination. That's not an option. Then what do you suggest? I can't exactly blend in with your crew. She gestured to her luminescent skin, which had finally regained its full opalescent shine. Marcus began packing, his military training warring with the connection they'd built over the past week. There's a maintenance shaft that leads to the old hydroponics level. It was abandoned after the last budget cuts, but life support still runs through there. You've thought about this before, Naira observed. I think about a lot of things. He stopped packing, facing her directly. But before we do anything, you need to know what they're really here for. It's not just a routine inspection. Naira felt her hearts, both of them, speed up. Tell me. Intelligence intercepted a transmission from your people. They're planning something big and they think it's connected to your disappearance. He pulled out his data pad, showing her a tactical display. 3 Stellar Dominion battle groups have changed course in the past 48 hours. They're converging near Neptune's orbit. Naira studied the display, her tactical mind automatically analyzing patterns. They're looking for me, but why now? Why risk so much for one commander? Because of what you know, Marcus's voice was grim. The truth about how this war started, the evidence in your memory stone, if that information got out. It would destroy everything both our governments have built their power on, Naira finished. She touched the crystal at her neck, feeling its warmth. The meditation chambers beneath the capital, the secret meetings, the orchestrated attacks, all of it carefully planned to push our peoples into war. By people who profited from that war, Marcus added bitterly, on both sides. A sudden alarm blared through the station, making them both tense. Marcus checked his communicator, his expression darkening. They're ahead of schedule. Admiral Blackwood's ship just requested emergency docking clearance. They'll be here in 2 hours. Naira made a decision. Help me up. If we're going to move, it needs to be now. Marcus supported her as she stood, her recent injuries still making quick movement difficult. But as they reached the door, it hissed open unexpectedly. Lieutenant Commander Reeves stood in the doorway, her eyes widening at the sight before her. For a long, terrible moment, nobody moved. Then Reeves did something unexpected. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. So this is where you've been disappearing to, Reed. Her voice was carefully neutral. I wondered why our best tactical officer suddenly needed so much private research time in an abandoned medical bay. Marcus shifted slightly, putting himself between Reeves and Naira. Diana, I can explain. Can you? Because from where I'm standing, you're harboring an enemy commander, the same one who nearly destroyed this station. She looked past him, meeting Naira's violet eyes. Unless there's something I'm missing. Naira straightened despite the pain, matching Reeves's gaze. Your lieutenant saved my life. In doing so, he may have saved many more. There are things you need to know about this war, things both sides have kept hidden. Diana, Marcus said softly, remember what we talked about after Europa. The patterns that didn't make sense. The orders that seemed designed to prolong the conflict rather than end it. Reeves's stern expression flickered. The civilian casualties that could have been avoided, the resources being channeled to private contractors instead of peace negotiations. She looked between them. You have proof. Naira touched her memory stone. We have truth. The question is, what will you do with it? Before Reeves could answer, another alarm sounded, this one more urgent. Her communicator buzzed and her face went pale as she read the message. They're starting with this section, full sweep top to bottom, Jensen's leading the team personally. She made a sharp decision. The hydroponics level won't work, it's on their search grid, but I know somewhere better. Marcus looked surprised. Diana. Some of us have been asking questions too, Reed. We've just been more subtle about it. She moved to the medical bay's control panel, entering a complex sequence. There's a reason I was assigned to this station, a reason I chose to check this section personally before the Admiral arrived. A hidden panel slid open in the wall, revealing a narrow passage. Reeves turned to them, her decision made. This leads to a secure communication hub, one that's not on any official station plans. It's where some of us have been gathering evidence, trying to understand what's really happening in this war. Some of us, Marcus asked. Did you think you were the only one who noticed the inconsistencies, who questioned orders that seemed designed to perpetuate conflict? She smiled grimly. There's a whole network of us, on both sides if our intelligence is correct. Naira felt hope and fear war in her chest. You've been building something, a resistance. We prefer to think of it as a path to truth and possibly peace. Reeves checked her communicator again. But right now we need to move. Jensen's team is 2 sections away and they're moving fast. As they hurried into the hidden passage, Naira grabbed Marcus's arm. Why didn't you tell me there were others? Because I didn't know, he replied honestly. I thought I was alone in this. You never were, Reeves said as she sealed the panel behind them. Now come on, we have about 90 minutes before Admiral Blackwood arrives and there are people you both need to meet. People who have been waiting for exactly this kind of proof. As they moved through the darkness, Naira felt the weight of her memory stone against her chest. What had started as one human's act of mercy had become something far larger, a chance not just for her survival, but for the truth to finally emerge. But first, they had to survive the next 2 hours. And somewhere above them, Director Jensen was hunting for secrets that could shatter 2 civilizations' carefully constructed lies. The hidden communication hub hummed with activity. Screens lined the walls, displaying encrypted transmissions and tactical data that made Naira's military training sing with recognition. But it was the people that caught her attention, 3 humans, and incredibly 2 of her own kind. Impossible, she breathed, taking in the familiar crystalline features of her people. Commander Voss, one of the Stellar Dominion officers, stepped forward, Commander Riltan, whom she'd believed killed in the Battle of Titan. We've been waiting for you. Marcus and Reeves flanked her protectively, but Naira barely noticed. How long has this existed? 2 years, Reeves answered, moving to a central console. Ever since Commander Riltan made contact with our network, he brought evidence of corruption within the Stellar High Command, evidence that matched our own discoveries about Earth's military-industrial complex. But we needed more, Riltan added. The memory stone you carry, it contains the final pieces we've been searching for. Above them, they could hear the muffled sounds of Jensen's security teams moving through the station. Marcus checked his tactical display. They're moving systematically. We have maybe an hour before they find the access point to this level. Then we work quickly. One of the humans, a communications specialist by her insignia, stepped forward. I'm Lieutenant Park. We've intercepted transmissions from both the approaching Stellar Fleet and Admiral Blackwood's task force. Both sides are preparing for engagement. Naira's hearts clenched. They would risk open warfare here, so close to a civilian station. They're desperate, Riltan said grimly. The evidence in your memory stone could expose decades of orchestrated conflict. Certain factions would rather see this station destroyed than let that information spread. A sudden alert flashed across the screens. Lieutenant Park's fingers flew across her console. Incoming transmission, it's from the Stellar Fleet. They're requesting authentication codes. All eyes turned to Naira. She recognized the encryption pattern, a direct communication channel to her former fleet. For a moment, she hesitated, feeling the weight of her command codes like a physical burden. If I respond, she said slowly, I'll be declaring my position. Both sides will know exactly where to find us. Maybe that's exactly what we need, Marcus said thoughtfully. Everyone turned to look at him. Think about it. Both fleets are coming here anyway. Instead of letting them turn this into a battle zone, we could control the narrative. Reeves caught on quickly. Use their own momentum against them. Force a confrontation where everyone has to face the truth. It's risky, Riltan warned, if either side opens fire. They won't, Naira interrupted, an idea forming. Not if we give them something more valuable than victory. She moved to the communication console. Lieutenant Park prepared a broadcast on all frequencies, both human and stellar channels. Commander Riltan, I'll need your authentication codes as well as mine. What are you planning? Marcus asked softly. Naira's violet eyes met his. Something neither side can ignore. The truth, broadcast live to every ship and station in range. No more shadows, no more lies. She touched her memory stone. Everything I've learned, everything we've discovered, all of it exposed simultaneously to both sides. They'll try to jam the transmission, Park warned. Not if we use the station's main communication array, Reeves countered. The same one they're here to inspect. We'd have minutes at most before they could shut it down, but... Minutes might be enough, Naira finished. She looked around the room at this unlikely alliance of humans and Stellar Dominion officers. But it means exposing all of you. Once we do this, there's no going back. The room fell silent, each person weighing the enormity of what they were considering. Finally, Marcus stepped forward. I think we passed the point of no return the moment we started questioning our orders, he said. The real question is, are we ready for what comes after? Before anyone could respond, a new alert blared through the hidden facility. Park's expression tightened as she read the incoming data. Director Jensen's team has found traces of the access tunnel. They're bringing in scanning equipment. We have maybe 20 minutes before they breach this level. Above them, the heavy footsteps of security teams grew louder. The moment of decision had arrived. Naira straightened, her crystalline form catching the light from the displays. Lieutenant Park, begin broadcast preparations. Commander Riltan, authenticate your codes. The rest of you, she paused, looking at each face in turn. Prepare for anything. When both fleets arrive, we'll either change history or become a footnote in it. As the room burst into activity, Marcus touched her arm gently. Whatever happens, he said quietly, we've already changed something. We proved our peoples can work together. Naira's response was interrupted by a massive shudder that ran through the station. Park's console erupted with new alerts. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, she reported tensely. Stellar Dominion fleet approaching from the outer system. Earth Defense Force vessels moving to intercept. The moment of truth was approaching faster than any of them had anticipated. As Naira began entering her command codes, she silently prayed to ancestors she wasn't sure she believed in anymore. Everything would depend on what happened in the next few minutes. And somewhere above them, Director Jensen's teams were getting closer to breaching their sanctuary. The hidden facilities screens showed two fleets moving into position around Neptune's orbit. Stellar Dominion warships, their crystalline hulls reflecting the distant sunlight, faced off against the sleek, dark vessels of the Earth Defense Force. Between them floated the station, suddenly feeling very small. Broadcast ready, Lieutenant Park announced, her fingers hovering over the final activation sequence. But Jensen's teams are almost through the outer doors. Naira stood at the central console, Marcus beside her, as she prepared to transmit the contents of her memory stone. Time to both fleets entering weapons range. 4 minutes, Reeves reported from her tactical station. Admiral Blackwood is demanding immediate surrender of the station. The Stellar Fleet is, she paused, listening to the translation. They're requesting that Commander Voss be turned over to them, claiming proof of human war crimes. They're trying to control the narrative, Riltan observed grimly, each side wanting to be the one to expose the other's secrets. Then let's give them something bigger to think about. Naira activated the broadcast system, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hearts. This is Commander Naira Voss of the Stellar Dominion 3rd Fleet. To all vessels in range, both human and stellar, I am transmitting proof of what our governments have hidden from us all. She nodded to Park, who began the data stream. On screens throughout the station and on every ship in range, the contents of Naira's memory stone began to play. The images were devastating in their clarity. Secret meetings between corrupt officials from both sides, orchestrated incidents, designed to inflame hatred, profit statements showing how certain corporations had grown wealthy from the prolonged conflict. But most damning were the records from before the war, proof that initial contact between their species had been peaceful, until manufactured evidence of hostility drove them apart. Security breach in Section 4, Park's warning cut through the tension. Jensen's teams are through the first barrier. Marcus moved to a defensive position near the door, drawing his sidearm. Keep broadcasting, we just need a few more minutes. The screens showed the reaction rippling through both fleets' ships holding position, weapon systems powering down as crews struggled to process what they were seeing. But then a single shot fired, not from the fleets, but from within the station itself. Director Jensen's voice boomed through the station's communication system. This is your only warning. Cease transmission and surrender the stellar commander, or we will be forced to take more aggressive action. Naira's answer was to step in front of the broadcast camera, letting every ship in both fleets see her clearly. My name is Commander Naira Voss, and I should be dead. Instead, a human officer chose to save my life. In doing so, he helped me discover that everything we believed about this war was built on lies. The door to their sanctuary shuddered under heavy impact. Marcus and Reeves braced themselves, weapons ready. To every soldier in both fleets, Naira continued, her voice gaining strength, I ask you to look at the evidence we've transmitted. Ask yourselves why we've been fighting. Ask yourselves who truly benefits from our continued hatred. The door burst open in a shower of sparks. Director Jensen himself led the security team, his cold eyes taking in the scene, humans and Stellar Dominion officers working side by side. Step away from the console, Commander Voss, he ordered, raising his weapon. This broadcast ends now. Actually, a new voice cut through the facility. I believe the commander should continue. Admiral Blackwood himself stepped through the doorway, his appearance causing Jensen to spin in surprise. The Admiral's eyes were hard as he looked at the intelligence director. I've seen enough of the transmission to know we've all been played for fools. The question is, Director, why are you so desperate to stop this truth from coming out? Jensen's weapon wavered. Sir, this is a security matter, the stability of profits? Reeves stepped forward, her own weapon trained on Jensen. We've traced the money, Director. All those private security contracts, the weapons development programs, the delayed peace initiatives, they all lead back to a very specific group of people, including you. The screens suddenly flickered with new data, financial records, secret communications, all pointing to a network of corruption that spanned both human and stellar space. It's over, Marcus said quietly. Look. The tactical displays showed something extraordinary. Ships from both fleets were moving, not to attack, but to form a protective ring around the station. And on every communication channel, voices were rising, human and stellar alike, demanding answers from their leaders. Jensen's weapon clattered to the floor as Admiral Blackwood's security team moved to take him into custody. You don't understand, he protested. The system works. The war keeps us strong, keeps us blind, Naira interrupted. Keeps us afraid, keeps us from seeing that we're stronger together than we ever were as enemies. She turned back to the broadcast camera, addressing both fleets one final time. For generations, we've been taught to hate each other, to fear each other. But look around this room, humans and Stellar working together, not just here but in hidden networks throughout both our territories. We've proved that peace is possible. The question is, are we brave enough to choose it? The response came not in words but in actions. Throughout both fleets, weapon systems powered down. Communication channels opened between ships that had been trying to destroy each other minutes before. And in the hidden facility, humans and Stellar began to emerge from their defensive positions, looking at each other with new eyes. Marcus moved to stand beside Naira as she ended the transmission. What happens now? He asked softly. She looked around the room, at Reeves coordinating with Stellar tactical officers, at Park and Riltan working together to secure communication channels, at the dawn of something new and fragile and full of possibility. Now, she said, we do the hard part, we learn to live in peace. Admiral Blackwood approached them, his expression thoughtful. It won't be easy, there will be resistance on both sides, people who profit from conflict won't give up their power without a fight. Then we fight that battle together, Naira replied, but with truth as our weapon, not lies. Through the station's windows, Neptune's blue expanse still dominated the view. But now, instead of marking a boundary between enemies, it watched over something new, the first steps of two peoples learning to trust again. Naira touched her memory stone one last time, then removed it from her neck. This held the truth that brought us here, she said, placing it in Marcus's hand. But what happens next, that's a memory we'll have to build together. As if in answer, ships from both fleets began signaling their readiness to escort diplomatic vessels to the station. The war hadn't ended with a decisive battle, but with a choice, countless individual choices to listen, to question, to hope. It wasn't a perfect ending. But then again, Naira thought as she looked at the unlikely allies around her, sometimes the imperfect endings were the ones that held the most promise for a new beginning.